Behold my ultimate technique, the Grand Line Review Gateway of Doom, which makes it so that anybody passing this point in the video automatically becomes subscribed to the channel and receives regular One Piece content uploaded straight into their YouTube feed. Or at least that's how that's how I wish it worked. In reality, you do still need to click that button yourself, which you know what, in retrospect makes this a pretty sad ultimate technique. Hello and welcome to the Grand Line Review, your source for everything One Piece, and today we have a review of chapter 978, introducing the Tobi Roppo. And that title is more or less the general gist of the chapter. I mean, there's a lot of fun stuff in it, but as always, I'm going to go way out of order and start right at the end because we have some fascinating figures presented before us. And I'm actually going to begin with one that we have previously met, being page 1, because I did not expect his human form to look anything like this. I was always picturing him as some kind of outlandish punk rocker dude bruh, and I legitimately did not recognize him at all at first here. I had to stop, take a closer look at the hair, and then go, well, I guess that is him. In reality, from his body language, he also looks a lot more reserved and introverted than I would have initially thought. And for anybody who is familiar with Hunter x Hunter, page 1 in this form just reminds me of Storm, one of the zodiacs of the Hunter Association. They both have this, how to say, cow chic going on. You know, the broad bucket hat with small horns and this black and white duality happening. Although when page 1 does get an official color scheme, I'm sure that it will be crazy bright One Piece beautiful vibrant colors, like I don't know, some sort of cerulean blue and bright pink. But for right now in the manga, page 1 does look like a cow Zoan. In fact, you know what, interestingly enough, it looks like every member of the Tobi Roppo has some sort of horn-inspired headwear, with the exception of Sword Boy Diaz Drake. Although actually the way his hair stands up so impressively upward almost acts like a horn. Still, it's an interesting aesthetic choice, and it does go on to match the general vibe of the Beast Pirates. A large majority of its members have ornamental horns evoking their beloved Kaido-senpai, but there are a few key members here and there like Drake or Queen that do not subscribe to that idea, Hawkins and Apu as well obviously. But moving on, there is not only one but two female members of the Tobi Roppo, which is a nice surprise because usually these sorts of groups only have that one token female, but the one that was obvious to us at the end of the previous chapter would be Ulti, who just as with page 1 is wearing a partial mask covering her mouth. And of course page 1, or I suppose I should say Pepe now, because that's how he is officially known from here on out, does go on to call her sis, so they would appear to be siblings. And from this interaction with Ulti, I would assume that she is the older sibling. In general, I do like her design though. It is a bit standard Oda, with the key exception of her hair, which is fun and unique. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing her in action, because being a part of this group, she is surely a Zoan user, which means that we have the potential to see a big badass female, maybe even dinosaur, at work here. And that sentiment is also extended to Black Maria, who would appear to be freaking massive. And I mean, surely this goes beyond the bounds of what we could consider human in the series. And I know that there are human characters like Big Mom who are just huge for no adequately explored reason. And there are also characters of exceptional height like Katakuri and the Admirals, but this is something else. I really would not be surprised if she was a giant, although that idea would be pretty funny, because one of the things that infuriates Big Mom most is the fact that she does not have any giants as part of her crew. And so for Kaido to have one in here is, well, that would be a bit of a sore spot. But I am equally excited to see what she is capable of, as with everyone in the Tobi Roppo actually, it should very much go without saying. My favorite of the members who are introduced here though, is probably Who's Who. There's something I find very compelling about his design. For example, I really like the way his eyes are portrayed as this flat, mysterious entity under his mask, and he also seems to be highly irritable, which is always fun. Plus, he would appear to be our Tobi Roppo swordsman, so that cannot help but endear him to me. In addition to that, he also has this Trafalgar Law style chest tattoo going on, and quite a grand belt buckle, so there's a lot of detail to digest here. And as for my least favorite new member introduced, that would probably be Sasaki. Overall, his design, it just doesn't do it for me, although the hat is pretty cool. And I'm sure that once he hops into action, then he will be an incredibly compelling beast, quite probably literally. But amongst this group, he's the only one that makes me go meh right now. And actually, you know what? It's quite strange because in the last chapter review, I predicted that the Tobi Roppo would be primarily made up of extremely goofy figures, but this time around, Oda has really held back on his trademark One Piece weirdness because all of these characters tend to err on the schmick and cool side of the Oda design spectrum. So it was actually quite unexpected to see this group of really sleek individuals. It just doesn't happen all that often in One Piece. But in any case, what this group are discussing is also quite interesting because it would give you the impression that they aren't necessarily Beast Pirate loyalists, and everyone is very much out for themselves. So for example, there's some discussion regarding Queen and what would happen if Queen were to, not be in the picture. Which of them would be next in line to take their place amongst the calamities? At which point it is hypothesized that that would be Drake, which surprised me quite a bit because I think that speaks pretty highly of Drake's overall combat prowess. And I know it's not necessarily just about being the strongest, but I'm sure also loyalty, or I guess perceived loyalty, and seniority would play a part in it too. And come to think of it, Drake would have actually been with the Beast Pirates for an awfully long time now. I mean, assumedly he actually joined going to pre-time skip after the altercation with Scotch. So this discussion actually has me pretty damn excited to see more of Drake. He's definitely been a very underrated feature of Wano thus far, mostly using his time to lurk in the background, but as with all Worst Generation members, he is 100% going to be a huge character going forward. But moving away from the Tobi Roppo, finally, there are some other great moments of the chapter in terms of both comedy and drama. And I'll start with comedy because why not? And one of my favorite things to see this week was Kinnamon's abilities back in action and providing everyone with some brand new Beast Pirate attire. The best part of which was definitely seeing Kid dressed against his will and just being like, what the hell is this? But the Straw Hats also get in on the action, which is actually kind of sad because I really liked the outfits that they already had, especially Luffy's. And I think that these are a definite downgrade across the board. So I'm really hoping that they are only temporary, which Kinnamon does allude to in the chapter by explaining what happens if they get removed. But in terms of the potential of these outfits, I suppose what might happen is one big revelation. You know, everyone infiltrates Onigashima, and then in one giant declaration of war, everyone takes off their Beast Pirate gear, because that surely does need to happen, especially in the case of Nameless Samurai, because friendly fire would become a very legitimate concern. But in any case, what this does mean for us is that this war is not about to get into full swing, and there will be a period of sneakiness to be had, which is kind of disappointing because I thought we were just going to go in guns blazing like the Straw Hats did in chapter 977. But at the same time, they are indeed severely outnumbered, so good on Kinnamon for coming up with something of a decent plan to gain a strategic advantage. And you know what? The only thing I regret about this situation is that Law won't be subjected to a new Beast Pirate outfit because he's off being sneaky with the rest of the vassals. I would have loved to have seen his reaction of just pure rage to having his clothes changed against his will though. That's okay, I'm sure there will be fan art eventually. And one final thing I will say is that Chopper remains adorable as always. It really doesn't matter how he's dressed, he can pull off anything, and I have no doubt that we will see a series of Beast Pirate Chopper figures simply as a result of this. Now as for the moment of great drama, this is once again courtesy of Mr. Kinnamon, who shows his absolute resolve for this mission by explaining why the ships of the Allied forces were sinking, which is just a splendid moment. I love the minimalist way in which the panel was drawn, with just Kinnamon in the frame. It really highlights his serious expression, and it does give me some degree of chills, because basically the situation has become very do or die, although to be fair, I suppose that's how it was always intended to be. And at first it did make me wonder how everyone was going to get off Onigashima, which could be something as simple as using the ships of the Beast Pirates, but then again, it could also be using the ships of the forces who still have yet to show up, because, you know, we're waiting on you, Mr. Nekomamushi. You are supremely late to this party right now, because the rest of the vassals, bar Kinnamon, are already engaging in this super special mission. And just a couple of miscellaneous notes, the Charlotte children were mentioned in this chapter, although still not seen. So it looks like this will indeed be a super special double Yonko battle. It's obviously not Big Mom's full forces though, just whoever was able to make the trip on the Queen Mama Chanta, which actually, I don't know, that is a huge ship, so it's probably not to be underestimated in terms of how many it could bring. However, I feel like right now we're all just anxiously awaiting the reveal of who exactly is there, and that mostly is about Katakuri. Is he on Wano? And if he is, then this is quite probably going to be one of, if not the greatest battles in One Piece history. Very simple maths there. But even without him, there's fun to be had with minor character interactions like Flampe, for example. I mean, just imagine her face when she recognizes Luffy, the man who defeated her once perfect brother. In fact, I imagine that most of the Charlotte children will have a bit of an oh shit reaction when they first see the Straw Hats, because they have experienced the anarchy that they can cause firsthand. Whereas all the Beast Pirates will probably be all like, huh, who are these punks? And also, I can't believe it's taken me so long to talk about this, but that spread of the entrance to Onigashima is pretty breathtaking. The detail is incredible, and the weird thing is that you really don't get a proper sense of its scale until you spot the ships in the bottom right corner. I think it's because of stuff like the unbelievably gigantic umbrella that makes this place initially look a lot smaller than it really is, but this is a really great image to dwell on and just soak up some glorious One Piece detail. And alright, I haven't touched on this in a while because recently my primary concern in regards to chapters has been very elsewhere, but great developments in our current cover story, as last week Lola and Chiffon had a long-awaited reunion, which was lovely, but what's even better is that this week we see their two groups meeting up, which is a strange feeling because these are two very different eras of One Piece coming into collision. So on one side you have the relatively recent characters featured in Whole Cake Island, and on the other we have a segment of characters from all the way back in Thriller Bark, with Lola and Chiffon switched of course. But it's just one of those things where I saw the Risky Brothers on the same page as the Fire Tank Pirates, and it felt like a crossover event because I just don't associate these two groups with any common thread other than One Piece itself. So in the end, this is doing what cover stories do best in further connecting the dots of this absolutely massive world laid out in front of us. But with that though, I feel like we've hit the natural conclusion of this particular cover story. There might be one or two more installments with some sort of amazing shot of the entire group setting sail together with some sort of new goal in mind, but this does feel like a pretty good spot to end things. It would be about on par with the Jinbei story, I think, which was about 28 parts, and this one is now sitting at 25. Other cover stories have of course been much longer, like the one focusing on the Grand Fleet, or the absolute marathon that was the Caribou Tale, but I suspect that this one has reached its limit, which is sad because I love cover stories. I think they provide some of the greatest flavor that One Piece has to offer, and it will always be far too long to wait before the beginning of another. And that pretty much does it for chapter 978. But what do you guys think? Please do leave your thoughts in the comments below, or even join my Discord server. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, then please do go and check out some of my other content, or even subscribe to the channel for more glorious One Piece business uploaded straight to your YouTube feeds. But for now, this has been the Ground Line Review, and I'll see you next time.